Okay, let's just dive right into this. Reach into your pocket or, open up your digital wallet right now. Take a look. Look closely, because there is a very specific tier of money in there that you likely do not respect. It's the $5 bill. It's that $4.50 iced coffee. It's the $6.99 app subscription you completely forgot to cancel. It's the delivery fee. I'm Zach, and today on Zach Wealth Files, we are breaking down a phenomenon known as frictionless bleed, the ghost dollars that vanish from your life every single day. Now, we aren't here to give you some tired motivational lecture about skipping your morning coffee. Instead, I'm going to give you a highly accurate mathematical framework for exactly how taking the absolute most insignificant amount of money you own and routing it into the market can secretly build incredible long-term wealth. You are going to walk away today knowing exactly how to build this machine for yourself. So I want you to honestly ask yourself, where did your last $5 go? Seriously, think about a recent small purchase. Because a $5 transaction doesn't trigger the neurological pain of paying that a $50 or $500 transaction does, your brain entirely fails to log it as a financial event. You don't budget for it, you just tap your phone and poof, those ghost dollars vanish. Now, most finance gurus out there will tell you to just stop spending this money. But honestly, that advice is flawed. You're human, and you're not going to just stop living your life. The problem actually isn't that you are spending the $5. The real problem is that you are completely misunderstanding the physics of what that $5 can actually do. To show you what I mean, let's look at a pretty wild real-world example. On the left, we have Ronald Reed. He was a janitor and a gas station mechanic in Vermont. He never earned a high wage, he drove a second-hand Yugo, and he literally used safety pins to hold his coat together. Yet, when he passed away in 2014, the world was absolutely shocked to discover this janitor had quietly amassed an $8 million portfolio. How? Well, he simply took his ghost dollars, bought shares of blue-chip companies, and then did the hardest thing in finance. He just left it alone for 50 years. Now, contrast him with Richard Fiscone. Fiscone was an Ivy League-educated Merrill Lynch executive who earned millions, fully understood complex derivatives, and yet in the exact same year Ronald Reed's massive fortune was revealed, Fiscone declared personal bankruptcy. His massive income was entirely consumed by his massive lifestyle. So, the crucial takeaway here? Wealth is a behavioral soft skill, not a hard science. Ronald Reed proved that when it comes to investing, duration always beats velocity. It really doesn't matter how fast the money comes in, what matters is how long you can keep it in the compounding machine. We're going to run a simulation. We're going to take just one single, seemingly insignificant $5 bill a day, which is about $150 a month, and rot it through the machinery of the global stock market over a human lifespan. Now, a quick but important hedge here. We are going to use the historical inflation-adjusted realities of the S&P 500, which is roughly a 7% return after inflation. These are historical averages, not guarantees. But let's say you decide to play it entirely safe. If you simply hoard your $5 a day under a mattress or in a zero-interest jar for 40 years, you'll end up with exactly $73,000. That's a nice little safety net for sure. But because of the silent tax of inflation, cash is basically a melting ice cube. By hoarding it, you actively lose about a third of its purchasing power over that time frame. It simply won't buy your freedom.
But what happens when we invest it? Let's walk through a typical human lifespan decade by decade. In your 20s, what we call the age of friction, giving up $5 a day feels heavy when you're juggling student loans and rent. Psychologically, this decade is a grind. But you aren't just building cash here, you're building the neural pathways of automation. You're wiring your brain to accept that a tiny percentage of your cash flow simply doesn't exist for consumption. Then comes your 30s, the age of temptation. Your income goes up, and your brain tells you that $5 a day is way too small to matter, nudging you toward lifestyle creep, like upgrading your car or your house. But if you survive that temptation and hold the line, you reach your 40s and beyond, the age of optionality. This is where the habit ultimately buys total freedom.
Now look at the compounding singularity that happens right at year 40. Remember, you've only physically contributed $73,000 of your own actual money. But historically, if invested in the S&P 500, your balance at year 40 sits at around $884,000. Your money is now a minority shareholder in your own account. The compounding is doing the heavy lifting. By year 40, your portfolio is generating roughly $88,000 a year in internal growth. Think about that for a second. It's essentially an $88,000 a year salary being paid to you by your past self, working entirely in the background while you sleep. Looking at that math, you gotta wonder why this isn't the norm. It's because the $5 rule has 4 lethal enemies. The first is the fee death spiral. A lot of people try to start micro-investing today, which is great, but they use the wrong apps. If you are investing your $150 a month, and an app charges you a flat $3 monthly subscription fee just to access their platform, that is a 2% monthly drag on your capital. Annually, that is a devastating 24% fee. You are mathematically guaranteeing a loss even if the overall stock market goes up. You have to understand how these flat fees silently devour small deposits.
The next enemy is the behavioral gap. There's this famous ongoing study by Dalbar that found while the S&P 500 historically returns roughly 10% a year before inflation, the average investor only captures about 6%. Why the huge gap? Well, because when the market inevitably drops 20%, the average investor panics and sells their portfolio right at the bottom and then buys back in at the top when the news feels safe again. Over 40 years, that 4% difference in behavior costs the average investor over $600,000. You have to reframe market crashes. When you're running the $5 rule, a crash isn't a loss of wealth, it's a massive discount on future fractional shares.
And then, of course, there's the most expensive sentence in the English language. I'll start investing when I make more money. We call this the I'll do it tomorrow fallacy. Time is the ultimate multiplier here. If you delay this simple habit from age 20 to age 30, you don't just lose 10 years of casual returns. Historically, missing that first decade costs over $1.2 million by age 60. Let that sink in. The very first $5 you invest is mathematically the most powerful dollar you will ever own, simply because it has the longest possible runway to clone itself.
Theory is completely useless without execution, so here is your concrete 4-step setup to build this wealth machine right now. Step 1 is the fractional engine. Because a single share of the S&P 500 costs hundreds of dollars, you must use a zero-commission broker that allows fractional shares. Think Fidelity, Schwab, or Vanguard. Step 2 is asset allocation. Keep it relentlessly boring. Do not buy individual stocks or crypto with this. Use broad, low-cost index funds like VTI or VOO, which are just ticker symbols that automatically track the top 500 US companies. Step 3 is the out-of-sight firewall, and this is absolutely crucial for your behavior. Set up this brokerage at a completely separate institution from where you buy groceries or pay your rent, and literally delete the app from your home screen. Build a psychological moat so you aren't even tempted to tamper with it. And finally, Step 4. Step 4 is the inflation ratchet. Once the initial $5 habit is locked in, you systematically increase it whenever your income goes up. When you get a raise or some side hustle income, you don't upgrade your lifestyle, you upgrade the micro deposit. So year 1, it's $5 a day. Year 5, you ratchet it up to $10. Year 10 to $20. By doing this, you can actually compress a 60-year path to freedom into just 25 years. You achieve that compounding singularity in your 40s instead of your 60s. It's a total game changer.
Now, real quick, as always on Zach Wealth Files, transparency and accuracy are non-negotiable for us. Market returns absolutely fluctuate, and the simulations we looked at today use historical averages. They are not guarantees of future performance. The next decade could look different than the last. This framework is for general education and mastering your financial behavior. For your specific, personalized situation, you should always run things by a licensed financial advisor.
We spend our entire lives paralyzing ourselves, chasing these massive, intimidating numbers like, I need $1 million to retire. But the $5 rule shifts the focus entirely. It acts as a cheat code for the human brain, asking you to sacrifice absolutely nothing that matters, just one unnecessary convenience a day. When you look at a $5 bill, you aren't looking at a coffee or a digital video game skin. You are looking at a seed. Most people simply consume the seed today and then wonder why they never have a harvest tomorrow. But if you respect those ghost dollars, automate them, and let compound interest do the heavy lifting, you completely change your trajectory. So I'll leave you with this. Are you going to eat the seed today, or are you going to plant the forest? If this framework gave you clarity on your long-term wealth, hit subscribe so we can keep making finance simple and accurate for you. And right now, let me know in the comments, what is the specific ghost dollar expense you are going to redirect into your fractional index fund this week? I read every single one. I'm Zach, thanks for learning with me, and I'll see you in the next one.